Our next speaker is Kaula Ben Masood, and she'll speak on factors associated with geographical diversity of reviewers invited and agreeing to review for 21 biomedical journals.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me briefly introduce myself. I am Kaoula Ben Messaoud, currently a postdoc researcher at University of Geneva, Faculty of Medicine in Switzerland. 1 year ago, I submitted an article to a well-known obstetrics and gynecology journal. The journal kept the article during 9 months before communicating the first decision. The reason was that they couldn't find reviewer. They invited over 20 reviewers in 9 months, but only one agreed to review my manuscript. This rather depressing experience as a young researcher prompted me to design a study to explore response to peer review invitation. So, peer review is pivotal in evaluation of manuscript and in decision to publish, but peer review is under increasing pressure. There are many difficulties to find reviewers, as shown by my recent experience. Peer review is prone to many potential biases, but remain unstudied. In particular because it was done anonymously. And I don't know, there are problems with the slide. It was done anonymously, and data on peer review are not publicly available. Publin report showed geographical disparities among reviewers, with a lower participation of reviewers in among emerging countries. There are more submissions than reviews from Brazil, China, and India. There are also a difference in rates of agreement. This also because there are a tendency for editors to invite and relay a narrow pool of reviewers that may led to another representation of most of the opinion of most productive researchers. For instance, the report showed that only 10% of all reviewers completed 50% of reviews. This also because editors disproportionately invite reviewers from their own region. So two working hypotheses were the existence of geographical disparities at 2 stages of peer review process. 1, in the selection of reviewers, 2, in the response to peer review invitations. So we designed a retrospective cohort study of research manuscripts submitted to 21 Journal of BMG Publishing Group and reviews between January 2018 and May 2021. We followed the cohort up to February 2022. Several factors were explored or used for adjustment at manuscript, reviewer, and journal levels. The main outcome was the response to peer review invitation. We did descriptive analysis, then we performed multivariable mixed effect logistic regression of response to peer review with a random effect on the journal and on the manuscript. Among reviewed manuscript, there are 7.7 of their mean of reviewer invited of 7.7. There are a mean number of reviewers who agreed of 2.7. 85% of handling editors were European or North American. In other words, 99% of editors were from high-income countries. if we compare geographical distribution of reviewer manuscript and of invited reviewer, we can observe that there are a higher percentage of manuscript from Asia than reviewer invited from Asia, 28% versus 9%. Similarly, we can observe also more manuscript reviewers from non-high income countries than reviewer invited from this region. Here are the results of our main multivariable model. We modeled the likelihood of agreeing to invitation to review. The adjusted odd ratio of agreement was higher if reviewers were from Asia, South America, or Oceania, compared with Europe, but lower if from Africa. There are a significant lower adjusted odd ratio if last author of the manuscript were from Asia or Oceania. There are significant adjusted, there are more agreement if the editor were from North America compared with Europe. And surprisingly, there are an increased chance of agreement when impact factor were over than 10, and conversely, when it was an open peer review, there are less agreement. Here are the results of our complementary multivariable model. We also modeled the likelihood of agreeing to review, but we replaced geographical affiliation by World Bank income group of the affiliation, the country of affiliation. Reviewer and last author income group were significantly associated with agreement. Editors income group were not significantly associated with agreement. Notably, association remain between impact factor and agreement, and between type of peer review and agreement. In summary, 87% of invited reviewers had a North American or European affiliation, and there are 3 times fewer Asian invited than manuscripts from Asia. Several factors were related to agreement, such as anonymized peer review, high impact factor, and reviewer affiliation from Asia, South America, and Oceania, that they are associated with an increased chance of agreement, whereas last author from Asia and reviewer from Africa were related to decreased chance of agreement. There are no real point of comparison in the literature on reviewer invited, but the geographical distribution of reviewer how agreed seems similar to some other studies based on reviewer of biomedical journal. Using several adjustments, we were able to confirm and to estimate geographical disparities described previously in Peblan's report. And then, yes, there are also no real point of comparison between geographical disparities and agreement in the literature. The strength of our study resides in the fact that the 21 journals are from a range of specialties, and they have submission from around the world. Then we are also the first study to explore geographical disparities of peer review at different level, manuscript reviewer and editors, and to explore disparities using geographical areas and income group or the country of affiliation. There are also a need to explore other factors, ethnicity and seniority of researcher, for example. The showed disparities in invitation and in agreement can induce bias in scientific discussion within underrepresentation of Asian, African, and South American perspective might lead to yes, less effectiveness in global health policies. There are also a need to better understanding Asian case. To conclude, geographical affiliation of reviewer was an independent factor associated with agreement to review. There a pressing need to avoid bias and increase diversity. Here are the reference to a poster presentation related to this study, which explore in more detail yes, disparities, gender disparities among reviewer response to invitation. Acknowledgement to the journal included in this study, and to my co-authors, Sarah Schroeter, Marc Richard, and Angèle Gaillet-Ageron. The experience that inspired me to do this study is not yet finished, but I'm sure I will find the perfect home to my manuscript at the end.
We have a request to please ask your questions slowly. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, Dr. Masood. My name is Shelley Pranich. I'm from the University of Split School of Medicine. And as a health services researcher, public health researcher, and also peer review researcher, I appreciate your presentation today. It's very insightful and much needed. As a peer reviewer myself, for across many different disciplines, including clinical medicine, peer review, as well as clinical trials research. We do see underrepresentation of reviewers like myself. What incentives or what guidelines do you think could encourage editors to reach beyond their current pool of researchers? I've actually been a part of conferences and academic circles where editors admit that the peer reviewers they invite are from papers that they like or friends that they know. So this lack of kind of broadening their peer review pool or circles could be damaging science as we know, and decreasing representativeness and the overall generalizability of the findings from research. We'd just like to know your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I think that there are many things you can do. An editor need to try several things to improve this the diversity among reviewer. Maybe yes, they can invite more reviewer from Asia and from other region that are less represented in actually in among reviewer. Yes, I don't know what I can do what I can do immediately, but yes, there are many things to do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pertti Salohimo from the Finnish Medical Journal. One of your results was that the country or the authors affected the reviewers' willingness to review. And I know there was thinking that the open peer review would be the best thing, but should we actually all switch to double-blind peer review?
I think open peer review is a source of, yes, more more honesty, and everybody know who is everybody. And I think it's when we have open peer review, the quality of the review can be better. But I don't know if we can switch to double blind. It will be better. Yes, some trials, RCT, conclude that there are no difference in the peer review report between double blind and open peer review. But yes, if there are a balance to evaluate.
So congratulations for your work. So one thing that got me, just a minor thing, don't you think that's better to call your outcome sometimes like chance to agree rather than agreement? Because agreement, it can be like other things. I know that's dichotomous outcome of a logistic regression, but agreement can be other things in the literature. But maybe if you call like chance to agree, the chance to agree was an odds ratio. I think it,
Okay.
yeah, it's just minor thing, but congratulations for the work. It's very important.
Thank you for your question. You give me the opportunity to clarify this point. We defined agreement when the reviewer give as response to invitation agreed.
Yeah.
And the decline where they decline, and also when they did not respond, even if they receive the invitation. So yes, the agreement is when they accept to
Yeah.
review the manuscript.
Thank you.
And then we will have the online questions.
Okay, thank you for a fascinating talk. Nick Jakubowicz, Newcastle University, and I'm editor-in-chief of Journal of Dental Research. And just speaking from the perspective of an editor, I often find it quite difficult to find information about authors that I don't know personally. I would love to broaden the pool of reviewers because we all have trouble finding reviewers. But I think that there are differences in certain parts of the world between the amount of information that's available about researchers, and whether that's institutional websites or their engagement with initiatives like ORCID. And I get the feeling that Asia, in general, it's just my feeling, I don't have data, but I tend to find it harder to get the information about reviewers, and therefore do my due diligence and make sure that they are fully qualified to review a paper. So I just wondered whether you had any information on that aspect.
Thank you for your question. Yes, I think it's difficult today it's difficult to find a reviewer, but also the task of to be a reviewer is not enough valuable in academics. So I need also to do this to improve this point. And concerning Asian, yes, we need to employ all scientific around the world in the review. We need to have a point of view of everybody to conclude, to write things.
And we'll have the last questions from Michael.
Thank you. An online question from Matthew Stanbrook at CMAJ, who was interested in the association between open peer review and the lower willingness to accept the invitation to review. Does open peer review create somehow a barrier to inclusion of reviewers from diverse backgrounds? How do you account for that association?
I'm not look specifically if the peer review, the open peer review can increase the diversity among reviewers. Yes, open review is a barrier for a researcher to accept. And maybe I will look at this to have an idea of this. Thank you.
Thank you.